Of all the iconic national symbols, none is more representative of Japan's time-forged traditions than the samurai sword. Said to possess a warrior's very soul, the samurai sword has been marvelled at for its flawless beauty and unrivaled engineering for over a millennium. Centuries ahead of its time, Japanese sword-making was passed down from master to pupil for generations, and revered as part art, part religious ritual. So, how exactly were they made? The great swordsmiths of Japan were more alchemists than blacksmiths. Requiring a deeply intimate knowledge of chemical metallurgy, the traditional sword-making process was anything but straightforward. Dozens of craftsmen would work around the clock for months on end, sometimes longer, to produce a single blade. The starting steel, tamahagane, is produced by smelting iron sand containing iron ore, with charcoal in a large clay furnace known as a tatara. Once the correct temperature is reached, it's up to the tatara masters to carefully monitor the tatara, feeding in iron sand and charcoal as needed. This step is crucial and requires the team to be on hand for 72 hours without pause. After the 3-day smelting process is complete, the tatara masters break open the clay furnace to extract the tamahagane. From this, they break apart and separate the steel mass according to carbon content. When expertly combined, high carbon steel and low carbon steel will imbue the blade with a razor-sharp edge and toughness respectively. A sword composed of just one type of steel would result in a blade that would be too brittle or dull easily. The best pieces of tamahagane are sent to a swordsmith, who heats, hammers, and folds the steel repeatedly, up to 16 times, in order to further combine the iron and carbon, and to draw out any remaining impurities, or slag. After the smith hammers all impurities from the different steels, high carbon steel is heated and shaped into a long piece with a U-shaped channel. The low carbon steel is also heated and hammered into a strip that fits snugly into the channel. The two metals are then forged together. Both types of tamahagane are now exactly where they need to be. The hard steel forms the sword's outer shell to provide the sharp edge, while the tough, low-carbon steel serves as the durable core. With the blade steel now assembled, it requires one last firing. A thick mixture of clay and charcoal powder is applied to the blade's upper side and dull back edge, leaving the sword's primary edge only lightly coated. This serves both to protect the blade and to give it its signature wavy design called the hamon, which is revealed later during the final polishing. The blade is then fired to just below 815 degrees Celsius or 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. Any hotter and the blade is at risk of cracking. The blade is pulled from the fire and plunged or quenched into water. The difference in the degree and speed of contraction between the two forms of steel in the blade causes the sword to bend. This process gives the sword its signature curve. Now fully forged, the blade is passed to the sword polisher. The blade is meticulously polished with a series of grinding and polishing stones to hone the sword's razor edge. This polishing step can take several weeks, sometimes months. Metal workers mount the blade with its decorative guard at the sword's hilt. Carpenters then fit the blade with a lacquered wooden scabbard, which artisans then intricately decorated. The handle is then fashioned with gold, leather and/or stone. These final steps produce finishing touches that are as much a work of art as the blade itself. The finished sword is returned to the swordsmith for its final inspection. If acceptable, the sword is ready to be presented to its new master. During the 1300s, a time of war and conflict for Japan, skilled swordmasters were high in demand. However, when the shogunate, which is the military dictatorship of Japan, 1192 to 1867, lost its power, and the Meiji Restoration period began in 1968, Japan sought to modernize, and the samurai class lost their privileges and position within society. With the demand for swords reduced, craftsmen and manufacturers turned their efforts to knife making instead. Today, the art of Japanese cutlery is a direct descendant of Japanese sword making, with many of the same techniques and designs still being used, with authentic, traditional samurai swords fetching astronomical prices, if you can even find one for purchase. Owning a quality, Japanese piece of cutlery is the next best thing. Discovering the complex art of the famed samurai sword, from its beginnings on the battlefields of Japan to its current role in our kitchens, reveals a tale of change and adjustment. As this age-old practice has evolved, our own journeys have also changed, like our in-depth look at the history of the Jeddah Tower. This examination highlights the challenges of ambitious architectural projects and the elements that impact their outcome. Whether it's crafting swords or constructing skyscrapers, the drive for innovation and perseverance endures, making a lasting impact on our society. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating content. And if you have any suggestions for future topics or stories you'd like us to explore, drop them in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.